if we were able to back engineer some of the technology that we have in these devices, we could prevent, for example, inflammatory processes and rejection. In other words, if we could make something similar, you could wrap a heart, a kidney, a screw, a pin, or whatever, and instill it into the human body, and the person would not have to take any anti-rejection medication for the rest of their life. Jeez. So this was presented in a report, which is in the White House, the OSTP. That's the Office of Scientific Technology and Policy. And that was handed to Obama at the time when he was trying to raise money for his medical health care problem to get Congress to approve the money.
My name's Steve Colburn. I was educated at UCLA. I have done a lot of microscopy and elemental analysis on these objects and come up with some interesting findings. One thing we found out is that the devices are definitely nanotechnological devices. They're not just simply metallic objects that somehow got into the body. They contain carbon nanotube electronics, and they give off radio signals, and they have odd nanostructures in them made of carbon nanotubes. Carbon nanotube electronics are a hot topic in material science today, by the way, and there's many amazing properties about them. The aliens have apparently perfected the technology to use carbon nanotubes in these devices. And there are proprioceptor nerves that go into these the tissue capsule or gray membrane around these devices. And one of the most fascinating findings was that that these devices contain many of them contain meteoric iron judging from the trace element pattern of gallium, germanium, precious metals like iridium and platinum. And iridium is not found on Earth in any great amounts. And we did the isotopic analysis of various elements from the metallic cores of several of these devices and found out that they were made from off-planet material, extraterrestrial material. There's a certain pattern of isotopes for each element on Earth, and if that pattern is varying by more than 1% or so, then it's the conclusion can be drawn that the material came from off-planet. And some of the isotopic ratios and the elements in these devices are extremely skewed compared to quite unlike the isotopic ratios of elements on Earth. In fact, Dr. Kuntz, our colleague who's also involved in the research, concluded that they probably came from somewhere else in the galaxy. They don't even seem to be from our solar system. These devices have carbon nanotube networks inside the metal. So they're obviously manufactured devices, and they seem to be well beyond the technology of civilian science at this point.
So it's not possible that something like the nanotubes could be made through nature. It has to be manufactured.
No, they were discovered in 1991 in Western science. The Russians discovered them perhaps 10 years before that, but they're not known to be found in nature, and certainly not in meteorites.
So there's no way that it could be faked, really?
No, I don't think so. Some people have argued that these devices could be made by black government projects, but I think that the fact that they contain extraterrestrial material argues strongly against that.
So you're saying that this was discovered in 1991, right? The nanotubes?
Yeah, and many of these objects date from well before the discovery of carbon nanotubes in science on Earth. These people reported that these objects were put in 30, 40 years before a lot of times.
So when you say nanotubes, do you mean that these things can be used to store information, perhaps?
Yeah, they can be made into electronic networks. Carbon nanotubes are let me give you a little bit of background. Graphite is a hexagonal array of carbon atoms, and these layers are stacked. If you take one of these layers, one of these hexagonal arrays of carbon atoms, and roll it up into a tube, that's a carbon nanotube. And there's various types of carbon nanotubes with different numbers of walls, and single wall are the most studied right now, and these contain single wall carbon nanotubes. Single wall carbon nanotubes are often less than a nanometer in diameter. These are small diameter single wall carbon nanotubes that are in these devices, and those can be used as electronics because there are metallic and semiconducting single wall carbon nanotubes.
So you're saying this is very tightly stacked, and if you took out if you laid it end to end, it would definitely be a lot larger than it would. So all this information is tightly stored together, compacted?
Yeah, I would think so, yeah. The total length of the carbon nanotubes in one of these things might be several miles. I haven't figured it out, but
wow.
It's got to be a lot.
So the technology used to compact that much information so tightly seems to be pretty futuristic.
Definitely. I don't understand how the metal could actually be put around the carbon nanotubes without destroying the nanotubes, because the melting point of these metals is like 1500 degrees Celsius, and if you poured molten metal over the carbon nanotubes, it would just destroy them or convert them to metal carbides.
So would it be possible to say that the information required to make one of these carbon nanotubes isn't readily available on Earth? It must have come from somewhere else?
We can make carbon nanotubes, but to make a 3D intricate composite like this with carbon nanotube electronics inside the metal, that's well beyond our technology at this point. We've speculated that they might be physiological monitoring devices or listening devices. They're definitely relaying information about the subject to the aliens through radio signals. They're not always transmitting, so...
Have you noticed actual radio signals emitting from it?
We've detected radio signals coming from them, and in two of my reports we outlined some of the frequencies that they give off. The last two devices we detected radio signals from.
Are they common radio signals that are found on Earth?
Some of them are aeronautical and satellite communication frequencies, but there's also very high frequency microwave discharges as well.
So could it be possibly dangerous to have a lot of microwaves emitting from inside a person?
It's hard to say. There's been no ill effects noted from anybody having these devices inside them.
What about after the surgery?
In fact, they don't have any rejection or immune response by the body.
So that it's possible to not even notice these tiny things in your body?
Yeah, most people don't notice them at all.
So would it be fair to say
see them on an X-ray?
Would it be fair to say that there might be a lot of those in a lot of different type of people?
Oh, that's very safe to say.
Wow.
Some of the frequencies that we've been able to gain some knowledge of from classified information is that they are deep space, fixed or mobile deep space frequencies. And that presents quite a conundrum because what advanced civilization would be using a radio wave to begin with?
So do you think it'd be possible that the government could know about these nanotube technologies?
I think they know about them. I don't think they can reproduce it as yet. It's anybody's guess how much technology the Black Project community has. Some of their stuff is reverse engineered alien technology, reportedly.
So would it be possible to take this apart and perhaps learn the secrets of what's inside it, and perhaps use it for our own technology?
That's what we'd like to do at some point. We'd like to take one of these devices and mount it vertically on a scanning electron microscope mount, and take an elemental map of one layer of the object, then etch away a layer with a beam of fast atoms, and then do the next layer and get a three-dimensional structure of the object that way.
How strong is the object? Is it easy to break?
This one, I don't know. I haven't tried to cut it yet. Most of them are fairly easy to break. I've cut 4 so far, and 3 of them are fairly easy to break. One was immensely strong and could not be cut at all. Even diamond tools wouldn't scratch it. It appeared to be some kind of highly advanced iron metal matrix composite with carbon nanotubes.
You mentioned there was a sort of biological capsule that surrounded it. Would that be used to protect it, to prevent it breakage?
No, I don't think it's to protect it. I think it's to organize the neural input to the device somehow.
Will President Obama, with the help of Congress, fund this medical research and reverse engineer these implants? If so, the implications could help medical technology beyond our imagination.